All right, this is my very, very, very most exciting and fun thing to do. And it is interviewing my students about their success. And today I get to talk to Darlene Frank. We have talked multiple times about your success, which is a testimony to your success. So Darlene, let's start by give people an overview. Who are you, where are you, and basically what do you do?
Well, I'm Darlene Frank. I live in San Francisco, California. I'm a writer, an editor, and a writing and creativity coach. And I work with people who want to write deep, meaningful books or pieces, essays, personal essays, whatever. I like to work with people who are interested in going into the unconscious and working with the shadow and bringing out the really juicy, fascinating, frightening parts of themselves and put it on the page. I
Well,
shouldn't with the
I
word
can attest
frightening.
to how much frightening. I can attest to how much fun that is, at least for me, and I think for everybody who takes your courses, because I've taken two courses from you, and it feels, in a way, it feels sort of therapeutic. It felt kind of a little bit therapeutic, but also really liberating to write those stories. So I'll just add that from my own perspective.
Thank you. It is liberating. Some people, I don't know who said this, but if you're afraid of writing, if there's something you're afraid to write, that's what you should write about.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
So,
That's great. Okay, so you the very first course that you took from me was had nothing to do with business building. Is that right? Sort of nothing to do.
right. It was your shot. I think it was, I don't know what it was called, but it
It
was
was
about
shadow dancing.
shadow
Yeah.
dancing course, right? I mean, I knew, I'm sure there was a business building aspect to what because you market to people who are building their business. But I took that course because I knew that it was the shadow work that was going to get me out of the state of fear I was in about being exposed and presenting something to a wider audience than the few people that I was working with, the coaching people, clients that I had.
Great. So you wanted to do some kind of online group work, right? Like an
I
online
did.
course or a group course. And so what happened?
After the shadow dancing class, you offered another course to specifically help people create an online program. And I took that course, and to my surprise, I actually created a program that has been the foundation of what I've been doing ever since. It's been really successful. People love it. I love doing the work. It's my calling to teach writing in many ways. And I love writing. I'm a writer first and everything else second, I say. And that course has just, it's what I do now. That's my work.
And
And
so,
it's providing an income.
yeah. So let me ask you, a question that comes up for me is what has been the difference for you between working one-on-one with your clients, helping them write like a memoir or whatever, and working with a group like you did with that first course?
There is no comparison. I mean, I loved having individual clients, and I still would if I had time to do that work. But working with a community of writers, the culture, the community, the sense of belonging and the inspiration and the support that comes from that, there's nothing to compare. I mean, and I'm working in a community in the classes I take from you. I mean, that's the way to go, in my opinion. That doesn't mean someone wouldn't ever need private coaching, but there is so much value in getting support from a group of people, whether it's 3 people or 25 people, they've got your back, they're interested in seeing you succeed. You can compare notes, you go through the same fears and the same successes. And it's just unparalleled, that kind of community support. I think it's really critical for writers to have that. I think it's really helpful. And for some people, that's the only way they're ever going to get anything written, in community.
I don't think that's only true with writing. I think
Well, probably true.
Yeah. So I remember in the two courses that I took from you, I remember that really the visceral sense of the community building. Like at first, there might have been a couple people that knew each other. I might have known, one other person or something, but the gradual sort of like opening sense of trust and sense of like, I think I love these people, and feeling so gratified when I would read a piece to another person and getting their uplifting feedback. So I know how good that feels. And of course, this is something that I, really aspire to do in my courses. But Darlene, I'm just wondering, how did you do that? Like, what are some of the things that you consciously do with the purpose of building that sense of community and connection in your courses?
That's a good question. I think I do it very deliberately. And part of it I've learned from watching what you do in your courses. But I usually begin with a question that everyone must answer. It's kind of a check-in question, and everyone hears everyone else's answer, or it's in the chat, but you get to which I read. I create a lot of breakout room work where people, meet with one or more people and share their work, not just the work that they've written, but I create activities that have them responding to something and maybe coming in with a little piece they've written before the class, and bringing that to the breakout group. And also we always close with something that involves everyone. And I have a community, an online community, not in Facebook, where people can post their work and talk to each other. So, all of those things I think build relationships.
It really needs to be intentional, don't you think? Like, I know I've been in many online courses where we've had a wonderful group of people, but the instructor, the lead, teacher, did very little to intentionally help us build community, and it didn't happen very much.
Mm-hmm.
Have you
Yes,
also
I
experienced that?
think it has to be created, right? I don't think it's
Yes.
going to happen necessarily by itself. I mean, I do give people opportunities to meet together to write if they choose.
Outside of the,
Yeah, I mean, they
yeah.
can do it. I provide a Zoom room for them, but they can do it also out on the outside. Um, it's interesting. All the people in the program right now are people who took my original two courses that you talked
Yes.
about that you took.
Mhm.
And so they came to my current course, which is a year-long course, having met people, knowing people that they were some of the people that were going to be in the longer course. So that
Which
community,
helps because you
yeah,
already kind of had a community there.
right,
Yeah, I know that helps with my courses too, because like there might be like two-thirds of the people might already know each other. And so if some new people come in, they're kind of immediately like embraced into the community.
right. There's a very welcoming atmosphere in the year-long course that I have, and in your courses too. What you just described is exactly true. People feel welcomed. Like,
Yeah.
we're here. We want more of you.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so this is wonderful. These beautiful, fun tangents we're taking. So let's talk a little bit about numbers and dollars and stuff. So you taught your original two courses, and if you want to give us those names, you can. You don't have to. You taught those original two courses for what, a year and a half or something before you created your year-long
Yeah,
like legacy
almost.
program. Almost
Yeah,
2 years.
almost 2 years, right? The Writing and Creativity Breakthrough um, program,
Yeah.
which was an 8-week course.
And then you had a follow-up additional 8 week that people
There
could.
was a follow-up that was a 4-week, 5-week course. Because after the first 8-week course, people wanted more. So I created the shorter course, which was just a shorter version of the first course.
Yeah, but that's
um,
perfect because when people are asking you for more, that that they like what you're doing.
right. And I got, it wasn't 100% enrollment, but it was close to it. Maybe one or two people who were in the first course didn't take the second course.
Yeah. So Darlene, How much money do you think you generated from those your first two online courses?
Those, I actually looked at those figures, and I generated about $20,000 over those two, the 8-week and the 5-week courses. I taught them several times
Yeah.
with a new group of people each time.
And your price point for those they were both less than $500, weren't they?
Oh, right. The pilot, I think, was $297, and then the after the pilot it was $397, and the second course was 197 or 297, I forget.
Yeah. Yeah. So really reasonable and totally
Yeah.
accessible prices. Yeah. And how did you market those? Because marketing is always something that I think really scares people in the beginning. They think, how in the world am I going to attract people to my courses?
Well, that was the most frightening thing for me too, because to market yourself, you have to put yourself out there and say, "Hey, I've got something, and I want you to pay me to give it to you."
Yeah.
But I marketed using the market research interview process that you gave us. You gave us a template. I followed the template exactly. I had lots of concerns that the questions I was asking people would sound like, oh, she's trying to sell me something. That wasn't the response from people at all. Instead, I found people wanting to answer the questions. I remember somebody sending me an email afterwards saying, "You really gave me a lot to think about. Thank you." This wasn't a person who even took the course. I mean, she was just, answering the questions. I had really wonderful conversations with people. I was very upfront about what I was doing. I'm thinking of creating a course. I know that you're a writer. I've either worked with you or someone recommended you to me. And would you be willing to answer a few questions that are helping me in my research about what people need related to their writing? And people were very helpful, very responsive. And of course, I already had a course in mind, but I was getting language from them, I think, that helped me describe what problems the course would solve for them, what needs they wanted to be addressed, and what the potential outcome could be.
So you got from them authentic language that real people out in the world use, not
Yes,
language that
exactly.
you might have used to describe it.
Right.
Yeah, which is brilliant. Yeah, it's really
Well,
good.
I mean, that was your recommendation, and it turned out my language wasn't a lot different from theirs, but hearing it exactly from people, I used some of those phrases when I went back to tell them about the course that I had put together based on all the interviews I had done.
Yeah. And so when people hear their words coming back from them, they really feel like you listened and also like this course is designed like ideally for them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so you marketed very simply in the beginning. You just used the market research interviews and the market research interview follow-ups. And so how many people did you want for that first course, your pilot, and how many people did you get?
I wanted 10 people. I got 10 people, and most of the workshops that I offered, there was one group I think that only had 6.
Uh-huh. So your intention was always 10. And so how did you market after that first one? Because you can't really keep doing market research interviews when the course is already fully planned and out there,
Oh,
right?
right. I didn't do any more market research interviews. I contacted, well, I asked all the people in the current course if they knew of anyone who might be interested. So I got some names that way. I was more vocal about what I was doing with the Professional Writers Association that I am a member of. So I started talking about it there. And I also met people in your courses who were interested in what I was doing, because, of course, they found out about it because we were interacting in your programs. And I just collected a list of names. And each time I offered a new program, I would send them an email telling them I was offering the program again. Were they interested? And somehow I kept getting more and more names, but it was a whole lot of work. I mean, I didn't really enjoy that part of that part so much because I had to focus on sending out individual emails to people.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
they were always personalized, which
Sure.
meant I had a conversation. I mean, some of these people who still haven't taken the course are still on my email list, which I've now put into one list. So I send one newsletter that goes to everyone. But it's marketing is hard. I found that it was hard. It is hard.
Yeah. Well, marketing, it's like
It's
we
hard for me.
we want to teach an online course, right? We didn't say, "Oh, I love to market. I want to market. That's why I'm doing this." It's like, no, I want
Right.
to teach people what I, and so marketing is something, I don't know, it's like brushing your teeth or something. You just got to do it. It's
It's a little harder than brushing your teeth, but
yeah, but well, anyway.
but you do suffer if you don't do it. If you don't market.
Right. You don't, yeah. So it sounds like you did a lot of personal invitations was one of your main,
Yes.
and also the students that you got from my courses, that was great because you just knew them, they knew you, and they thought, oh, I like what she's doing, I know her, I think I want to take her course.
Yeah.
And what else was I gonna, oh yeah, so there was one other thing that you did that you might not have felt like it was marketing. Your magazine.
Magazine.
Talk to
That's
us
right.
about that.
I published at the end of each course, I published a magazine with one piece of writing from each person in the course. And they'd written, anywhere from 5 to 6 pieces or four to 5 pieces in the course. So they had to choose one. And I worked with them to help them make that choice and to also edit and polish the piece. And then we published it. I published it in a magazine, a beautiful magazine, was hired an art director and everything. And people just were thrilled. They hadn't imagined what it would feel like or look like to have their work published in that format. And that's labor intensive on my part, but I'd always wanted to create a magazine. And it's something that, I finally did, and it was very exciting. And people still love that idea.
And I know because I was published in two of those magazines. They were just gorgeous.
And
The
your artwork was in your
artwork.
articles.
Yeah, some people put their own artwork. I had my own artwork, and many people had photos. And if they didn't, you added gorgeous artwork to it. So, did you get any students from who did not know you previously and just saw the magazine?
I don't think I've gotten any students that way. I've gotten people who interested in the program once they saw the magazine. I don't think that any of those people have signed up yet. I'm not sure.
I have a guess that some of the people who joined your course, I'm guessing that the magazine helped them decide to say yes, even though they may have already known you from some other.
There were some people who were really motivated by the fact that they were going to get published. And it's interesting, there are others, some serious writers who say the magazine isn't the motivator at all. They'd be fine if we didn't do the magazine, if we just did the rest of the course, which surprised me.
Yeah, because you might think that the writers, the more serious writers, would want that more than the other folks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what you did kind of as your preliminary. And then you created what I call either a premium program or a legacy program. So tell us about that.
I created a year-long program. It's called Journey. There's a subtitle that I can't even remember right now, but it's for people who are writing a book and want to spend a year focused on that book, whether they complete it in that year or not, or people who just want to explore themselves more deeply through writing. There are a couple of people in the program who are not sure they want to publish a book, but they have topics they want to write about. And they want the structure and the discipline of meeting with people regularly in the community as a container for them to do that. And I started that. The first year started last June, and we just are beginning the second year.
So you started it in June of
in
2022.
2022, right?
Yeah. And
And
so
so
you just finished your first year. And so tell us how many people joined and, some of the cool things you did.
I had 11 people in the first year program. And at the end of the year, which was just a few weeks ago, we had a public reading where everyone read one 5-minute piece that they had written. And we all invited whoever we knew and had a big Zoom meeting. And so many people signed up that I had to hire a co host. And we had an amazing time. The audience, the people who'd come just to hear the readers, whether they knew one reader or the whole group, wrote in the chat comments. I gave them like 30 seconds after each reading so they could write in the chat. And the things people said were phenomenal. They were so impressed. Even my professional writing association group, which was really high standards, said, this is amazing. Every piece was really good. The consistency, the quality, was consistent, and it was just, they were really impressed. And I was impressed watching the whole thing, listening to the whole thing. And we practiced. I mean, we had practice readings within the group, and, every piece was polished and it was ready to go. People felt very excited by the time of the reading. It worked out so well. We were all just really happy. I mean, a week afterwards, we had a meeting and people were saying they just felt so. I asked each one to say what they had, what was the most valuable outcome or, thing for them as a result of doing that reading. And they all, to a person, said they had felt really energized all week. It was such a validation. They just felt really enthusiastic and uplifted by the experience.
I just love
So
that.
that was very successful.
Yeah. And so, what has happened with your second year, like in terms of students continuing on, and how's that been going?
I offered a second year, and everyone, except so far, everyone but one person has signed up, but she started a little later than the others. So her opportunity is coming up in a couple of months. Everyone has signed on for a second year, which totally surprised me. I thought, who'd want to do this again?
I remember you asking me, what am I going to do? Their year's coming to an end. It's like, this is over.
And as it turned out, nobody really wanted it to be over. So here we are, and I've brought in a couple of new members as well who are starting this year now. I have two who just started this month, July, and I have two more who are going to start in September, and possibly a couple more. So it's exciting to me.
Well, and it's just got to feel so, I don't even know, like, what are the emotions that you feel knowing that all those people want to continue with your journey program?
I think I had to take in and really own the feeling that I created something that is valuable to people. I mean, I created this. This was my idea. I did a lot of teaching, but I never had a job as a teacher, but I wrote training programs for corporations, dull subjects, but I always got not awards, but just I gained a lot of credibility for being, producing really high quality materials that were easy to read, usable, and they looked good on the page, all these things. My tagline was clarity, simplicity, and quality. And I think I brought those same qualities to this program that I created, and I feel really proud of it.
Yes.
I mean, it has been a success. I can't say that it didn't fail. It's been just the opposite.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my participants in the original programs who would like me to edit her book because she which I did for her first book, but I don't have time to take on editing projects. And she's new at personal editing projects like that since I'm working with a group. She said, Darlene, you are a hard act to follow.
Oh,
That was really a compliment.
yeah. So, Darlene, what did it take for you to create a program that was so valuable to people that they're all willing to sign up for it again the next year? And we haven't even talked about, what the investment was or anything, but the first question is,
Yeah.
what did it take for you to um, create a curriculum and lead a group in a way that they would all want to keep going another year?
What do you mean by what did it take?
Like, what did you do? What did you do? And how did you have to work with your emotions or like your thought processes because that's a big thing. It's a big thing to create something brand new. Just like you said, it was your creation. You dreamt it up and
Mhm.
then you brought it into reality. I'm just wondering because I think a lot of people want to know that. Everybody has great ideas, but not everybody actually brings them to life like you have done.
Well, writing is my first love, and I have been over the years collecting things that if I ever teach a writing class, this is what I'm going to include. And all of those things have come out of the file cabinets and out of the storage wherever I had them. I'm using a lot of those ideas, and of course, I'm getting new ideas all the time as I present the materials. But I teach craft, the craft of writing. I give people an opportunity to share their work, and I also teach mindset. And one person said to me, I don't get this anywhere else. This is one of the reasons I'm here.
And so when you say mindset, tell us a little bit more. What do you mean by that?
Well, I teach some of the shadow work techniques that you taught in your classes. I teach processes where people interact with parts of themselves, like parts work or voice dialogue work, because I'm trained in voice dialogue facilitation. I really like that. And everyone who doesn't have a problem with procrastination or feeling overwhelmed. I mean, we talk about that, and we talk about. I create activities and exercises where people can kind of address the fears and the blocks that they're having at that point in whatever project they're working on. And these are creative processes. You could do the same process every time and get something different each time. And there's also a chance in when we do that work for people to go into breakout rooms, so they share with one other person or maybe two people, how that felt for them. I mean, they all get to share, so everybody kind of says, this is what's up for me right now. And I think that for me, that's really, really important. For me, that's as important as doing the writing itself, because if you can clear blocks and move your resistances, as unconscious resistances in particular, then you're free to either to do more writing or to write more about what you really want to say. Really understand why you're telling your story. I mean, most people in my programs are working on memoir. Not everyone, but most of them. So there's a lot of work about how do I tell the hard stories? How do I tell what I feel is truthful, and how do I give a space for equal truth from the other people, who maybe those who traumatized me or who I just can't stand even now. There's just writing is it's like life. You can't really separate writing from life in terms of what you learn.
And so what about for you, Darlene? Did you experience your own fears or doubt or like inner resistance, like you said, as you were thinking of planning the course and even while you were, during that first year of leading it?
Absolutely, especially when I thought about planning the course. I mean, I couldn't imagine anyone would pay me $2,500 for a year of work. And I had no trouble finding people. They came from the classes that I've been teaching. They just signed up.
Yeah.
It was easy, actually. Um, And what was the rest of that question?
But it sounds like you did have to overcome some of, you doubted that people would actually pay you that much money, that they would want to work with you for a year. And it sounded like maybe you had some fear around asking for that much. Is that right?
Yes. And I remember talking about that with you in private coaching or even in our group classes. And you told me how to just let that be part of the conversation. Say, this is what I'm thinking of charging. What could I, what would have to be in the program for it to be valuable enough for you to pay that price? And people told me, they gave me
Yeah.
ideas. So
Yeah.
this is what I would want. And so
And you
I
were honest that you
incorporated.
needed to charge enough to actually be able to put in the time to lead the course. Because if you
Right.
didn't make enough, you would have to like go back to memoir editing or something, right?
Yes. Right. I mean, I said, frankly, I can't make a living. I had like a $25 a month membership program. And
Yes.
I just said it up front, I said, I can't make a living on that membership program. I need to do something bigger. But I forgot about that little step.
I forgot about that too. I
There was
forgot
a whole year of the membership program between
about,
the 8 and the 5 week programs and the journey program. So and that was a lot of fun to do. It was also a lot of work for me because I posted things weekly, and then once a month we had a meeting and people shared their work. I mean, we had a lot of fun. It's just there was no income there to speak of, really.
I remember that conversation when you and I talked about um, like how many people you would have to have in that $25 a month program for you to actually make a living. And I think I remember you being shocked when I said, I think you should actually be charging 10 times more and do something much, much bigger.
I'm sure I was shocked. I didn't have that vision, and or I didn't know how to. I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah. Yeah. The people would say yes.
And now that I'm doing it, I can't imagine not doing it.
Yeah. Well, you can take your students so much deeper with
Right.
this format than you could when they were paying you $25 a month, right?
Right. We only had one meeting a month then. And it
Yeah.
wasn't really a teaching meeting. It was a share your work meeting. So you would get in a group with 2 or 3 other people.
Yeah, so you weren't really able to express your full creativity in that format either, right?
Right. I mean, I enjoy creating the lessons that I'm creating for people,
Yeah. Yeah.
particularly the craft lessons. I have good source material.
And like you said, you're finding more, all the time.
Yes. Yes.
So, Darlene, what's next for you? What are you picturing as your next step?
Well, my next step is to get through this year and have more than 10 people in the program. So right now I have 13. Um, is it 13?
Yeah, I think
And
you said 11 or maybe 10,
yeah,
but I think the 11th will
yeah,
probably
let's say 12, and I have 2 more people coming. So that's 14 in September. And I have a couple more people interested. Um, so I'd like to, maybe make the group as large as 20. I don't want to go larger than that. I think it would lose its small community sense if I did that. I mean, just bringing in 2 more people, it's like, oh my God, there's all this onboarding stuff I have to do, to bring them up to speed. Um, and I don't know what's beyond this program. I'm sure nobody would do this for a third year. Um, she
You
said.
did say that. You did say that at the end of the first year. So
um,
you
I don't
so
know.
let me just ask you a little coaching question here. So are you saying that writers, by saying nobody would do this a third year, are you thinking that the desire for community and it as a writer is going to end at some point?
No, but as I said it, I was thinking, well, they could work on another project if they chose to.
Writers like to write.
Yes. Yes. So we'll see what happens. And I have some ideas for other programs, but mostly they're shorter programs, so I
Yeah.
have no time to teach them now.
So, Darlene, so the things that I teach are to launch your pilot, which you certainly did multiple times. Well, it was only a pilot once, but you launched and led your first programs numerous times. And then the second thing that I teach is to attract an audience. And then the third thing that I teach is to scale your business. So it it appears to me that you've excelled in the first, launch your pilot, and in the third, scale your business. And I'm wondering whether you think that attracting an audience is, or more of an audience, growing your audience is something that could be, more of a next step for you.
I could do that. I mean, I would like to do that, actually. It makes me a little nervous. That's, a bigger audience means more exposure. I mean, that's always been a big fear. But I've revived a newsletter that I had kind of let go dormant for 4 years, and I'm taking a different approach to it. I'm very much more personal, telling personal stories and getting good response from it. But it's only going out to the people on my list. I don't know quite how to get a larger list going. So that's something that I need to focus on, I think.
Great, great. Well, what would you say have been the most, or I don't know the most, but some valuable things that you have learned and adopted into your own practices from working with me over the years?
Adopted into my own practices, meaning using in my courses or just in my personal
Both.
growth
I'd say
practice?
both. Yeah.
Um, well, the most important thing is all of the work that you taught me about working with the deep unconscious, the unconscious uh, aspect that controls our lives. Just being unafraid. I wasn't afraid to encounter that aspect. I've always been intrigued by that. But you created really practical ways to engage with that process, with those parts of ourselves, and to play with them in a sense. And it was incredibly liberating from the very beginning of the shadow dancing course I took with you. I just got to some deep stuff right out of the gate, and I just went from there. And I also decided when I took that course that I would not just sit back and be a participant and an observer. I would be an active participant. I was going to make myself do it, and I did it. So those processes, that combined with the very practical tools you provided in your courses for how to create a course, a series of steps. It made so much sense. You do this, 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 and this, and you have a course. If you do that, you have a course. And even if you only get 3 people in it, it's a test of your course. It's a pilot course. So, I mean, those are the 2 biggest, most valuable things. And I guess the third would be having a vision for something that goes beyond what I'm comfortable with at the moment. Allowing just being able to entertain the vision that you describe, that you see for me, that I didn't see for myself at the time. Having that as held up in front of me. It's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And oh, that's really scary. But maybe I should
I
try
think I'll
it.
try it. Yeah. Well, I think that having people like that in our lives that see possibilities for us that we can't see is so valuable. I think that's why, well, I think that's why a lot of people want coaching, because the coach can provide that for them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I see that in how I interact with the people in my group. I have a vision for them. I hold that vision. It's beyond what they see in
Yeah.
many cases.
Yeah.
I don't doubt them.
So, Darlene, one of the things that absolutely stands out about you for me, and I think for many of the students that have been in my courses with you, is that you take action. It's not that you have less fear than everybody else. You're not, I don't consider you a fearless person. I know only a few of those in my life, who just seem to be full to the brim with self-esteem, and they never fear anything. They just have a thought and they just go do it. But you have taken action, and you have created successful courses, and you have continued taking action even when things didn't work as well as you as hoped they would work. And you have gone on to create this year-long premium program, which is a major step. So I'm just wondering if you can share, if you even know, what are some of the things that you have done, internally to create this kind of success. Not just internally, but both internally and also, externally.
Well, externally, I think is taking small steps. I know that I always get intimidated by the size of the project or the goal. And I really have learned, I think, to take this, you do this little piece, then you do the next piece, and then you do the next piece. And eventually you look back and you say, wow, I did all that. And this is where I got. So it is taking the small steps that make up the leap. And the internal work for me is acknowledging how deep my fear is, pretending that I really love having all these blocks that are in the way, and discovering in that process that there is some part of me that actually does like all those resistances. Resistance can give you power, a power that you may never have had as a child, and you just like you love it in your body. Wow, I'm gonna fight this fucker. Pardon my language. You can edit out that part. So it's both of those. It's taking small steps and really looking at what's inside, the discovering parts of yourself that you just don't know are there, and they're pretty powerful, and they are stopping you. And just to make lists, you ask a question, you make a list, you discover things that are it's revelation after revelation, and there's a release that happens. For me, this is what works for me.
And when you say make a list, you're not talking about a to-do list, right?
Oh, the list of things that I'm afraid of, about a specific action or a specific thing.
I remember you telling me at one time that you do deep inner work, or shadow dancing, or whatever you want to call it. You do deep inner work every morning as a writing practice. Is that something you still do?
I do it most mornings, or a lot of mornings. For a while, I was doing it every single day. I still like to maybe just spend a couple of minutes, even if it's minimal, doing something related to the shadow dancing tools I learned, even if it's just a little bit of tapping to change my mood, or get rid of, release some fear I have about what I have to do that day. I find that very, very helpful. I'm just really drawn to the deep work, the techniques that are just going to reveal more of what's going on under the surface. And I mean, that's what I teach, and the examples I give people, that's my focus. I think that's kind of the uniqueness that I bring to that's the character of the work that I do with writers.
And so, Darlene, who do you think you are today that you were not, that you might not have been able to imagine, or you might not have been able to be back in 2020, before you took that shadow dancing course with me?
Mm-hmm. Well, something I said to you, I think just a couple of days ago, because I'm having all these people sign up for my second year of the program, I said, and after we had the public reading, I said, I really feel like I can own the fact that I created this, and I feel proud of it. And I'm not afraid to say that because of the feedback that I've gotten just as this year has come to a close. And I'm realizing I created something that's really valuable, that people value. And one of my participants even said, she said, when I asked them what was the most valuable thing in the program, she said, it's you. It's you. That's why I'm here.
That's got to feel good. And I'm so proud that you're really able to take that in and not
I
just.
can take that in. I could not
Yeah.
have taken that in even a year ago.
Wow.
I could not. I feel like I can accept that now,
That
which
is.
means I'm less fearful of putting myself out there and expressing myself in writing and in person.
I just
On an
love
interview
it.
like this.
I love it. I'm so proud of you and happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I am happy too.
So, Darlene, we've gone in all kinds of different directions in this conversation. It's been super fun. Is there any final thing that you'd like to say that, maybe we haven't covered? Oh, I never did ask you, what kind of money have you made in your journey program, in your year-long course?
Oh, yes, I actually wrote that down. I figured
Yeah.
that out just before this call. Well, I made $25,000 in last year's program, and this year, if there's one person who hasn't paid yet, but who's starting in a couple of months, I'll make $31,000 if that happens.
Yeah.
For this year. So that's a nice chunk. It's not, I can't live on that, but close, it's a sizable amount of income.
Yeah.
And it's all coming in right now, except for people who pay monthly. So I know what I have to work with for the coming year.
Yeah. And you can figure out what else you want to do to bring in the rest of the income.
Yeah. And I'm starting to think about that. What else can I do to create another few $1,000s here or here?
Yeah. That's great.
I didn't think like that before. I didn't think like that last year.
Right. It's like you're becoming a business owner.
Well, I've been a business owner. I've been self-employed all my life, but I never got the business part of it. I was never a good business manager. I mean, I was organized. I hired people. I had employees. We created projects, but I never keeping the books and all that stuff. I personally probably didn't make much money at all. And I never marketed myself. I mean, it was just, I got referrals. So I didn't learn anything about running a business. Yes. Now there's a little bit more involved. I mean, I realize there's nobody else. It's me and the online world. I don't have anybody to report to. And that's why having a community, a business building community, and a coach and a teacher like you to offer programs that address where I'm going next. And because you've been through all this, you've done all this. And plus, you're not afraid of all of those parts of the self, the inner self, the things that stop us. I mean, that's really what's made me stay with you, Natalie.
Thank you.
You're highly creative. You just
I am scared of them too. They don't. What can I say? Usually there comes a moment when I say, okay, I'm ready to face you. Who are you in there?
Yes.
Well,
thank you for this interview. This has been fun talking with you.
It's been super fun. It's been super fun. Thank you so much, Darlene.
Sure. Okay. I'll see you another time.
Yes.